like to call the meeting to order of the Merrillville Redevelopment Commission for Tuesday, January 28th, 2025 at 5:43 p.m. I'm going to ask Ms. Chilcott to take the roll in absence of our secretary.
Counselor Chandler Felton.
Present.
Counselor Hayes Edwards. Counselor Uzelak.
Present.
Counselor Hardaway. And Counselor Pettit.
Here. 3 members, we have a quorum, I believe, correct, Mr. Svetnov?
Correct.
All right, next item on the agenda, ladies, is the consent agenda, the accounts payable register voucher approval for January 28th, 2025, and approval of the meeting minutes for December 30th, 2024. What's your pleasure?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak, seconded by Mr. Chandler Felton to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have no old business, do we, Mrs. Chilcott?
No old business.
Under new business, since this is the first meeting of 2025, we do need to do the election of officers. The first slot is for the president.
Okay, I nominate Sean Pettit for president.
Are there any other nominations?
No.
Okay. Is that a second, Leona, or?
That's the second.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. Mr. Svetnov, can we just take a voice vote on these, or?
Take a roll call vote, please.
All right, a roll call vote for Sean Pettit to remain president of the RDC. Mrs. Chilcott, please.
Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Hayes Edwards absent. Counselor Uzelak.
Yes.
Counselor Hardaway is absent, and Counselor Pettit.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, ladies. The position of vice president. I think since I'm presiding officer, I can't make a Can I make a nomination, Joe?
No.
No? Okay. I have to leave it up to you two ladies.
Who's the vice president now?
I don't, Angie, who do we have as vice president now?
I
Me.
believe it's
Is it
Leona.
Leona?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I nominate Leona for vice president.
Can I second, Joe?
Yeah,
You don't need a second nomination anyway.
Don't?
Nomination sufficient, yes.
Okay.
Just
So-
need to second a motion to elect.
All right. Any other nominations? Seeing none, can we just do a roll call on this, Joe?
Just do a roll call.
Roll call again? Okay, Angie.
Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Hayes Edwards absent. Counselor Uzelak.
yes.
Counselor Hardaway is absent, and Counselor Pettit.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Congratulations, Leona.
Thank you.
The last item is the secretary. I know the current secretary is
It's
Keisha.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's, the old cliche, if you don't show up to a meeting, be careful because you might get elected to something. So, and she didn't answer my text. I did ask her if she was on her way. So I don't know what we want to, Joe, advice?
It's the prerogative of the board who they want to nominate as.
Do you want to just keep, I hate to
Yes,
do that.
I would-
You want to nominate Keisha even though she's
I
not
would
here?
nominate Keisha Hardaway.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right. There's a motion and a second to keep Keisha as the secretary. She does say she's on her way, by the way. Just got to check. Roll call, Ms. Chilcott.
Counselor Chandler Felton.
Aye. I'm sorry.
That's
Aye.
Counselor Hayes Edwards is absent. Counselor Uzelak.
Yes.
Counselor Hardaway is absent, and Counselor Pettit.
Yes. Motion carries 3-0. Okay. The next item on the agenda is under general orders. We have 4 resolutions. We have with us tonight our bond counsel, Tom Pittman from Barnes & Thornburg, our financial advisor, Bob Swentz from London Witty. These have been advertised properly with Tom and Angie and Joanna's help. The first resolution is 25-01. It's a resolution of the Town of Merrillville Redevelopment Commission confirming the establishment of the Mississippi Crow Economic Development Area and related allocation area in the Town of Merrillville and approving an economic development plan for said such area to be known as the Mississippi Crow Economic Development Area. Ladies, do you have any questions before I open up the public hearing, do you have any questions for Angie, Bob, or Tom?
No.
This
I
is
don't have
actually
any.
the last step that we had taken. We started here at RDC. It went to actually, ironically, the three of us saw it at Plan Commission because we're on Plan Commission. Went to the town council with unanimous votes, and now this is the last step. Is that correct, Bob and Tom? Okay. All right. If there are no questions of the commission at this time, Mr. Svetnov, this is an advertised public hearing. I'll open it up for public comment. Anyone that wants to speak in favor or against, you'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and step up to the microphone. Again, anyone with public comment in favor or against? Last time, anyone in favor or against? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on Resolution 2501. Back to the commission. Ladies, what's your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak, seconded by Mrs. Chandler Felton to approve Resolution 2501. Is there any further comment amongst the commission? Joe, Bob, or Tom? Angie?
No.
Seeing none, roll call, Mrs. Chilcott.
Counselor Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Counselor Hayes Edwards is absent. Counselor Uzelak.
Yes.
Counselor Hardaway is absent. Counselor Pettit.
Yes. Motion carries 3-0. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2502. It's a resolution of the Town of Merrillville, Indiana Redevelopment Commission confirming the establishment of the Liberty Estates West Economic Development Area and related allocation area in the Town of Merrillville, Indiana, and approving an economic development plan for said area. This is the Liberty Estates West Economic Development Area. Again, this was an advertised public hearing. Angie and Joanna have the publications. Everything appears to be in order, ladies?
Everything is in order. Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions of the commission before I open up the public hearing? Just a refresher, ladies, we've seen Mr. Hall on several occasions at the Plan Commission. This is an expansion of the existing Liberty Estates East, which Joe and Randy have been working on a development agreement. We're probably going to see, are we going to see something at the Plan Commission, Joe, with Randy at the end? Or is this a council action?
This is going to be a council action.
Council action, okay. All right. Seeing no questions amongst the members, I will open the public hearing up. Again, this is an advertised public hearing. Please state your name, speak in favor or against it on Resolution 2502. Is there anyone in favor or against 2502? One last time, anyone in favor of Resolution 25-02? Seeing none, back to the commission. Ladies, what's your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak, seconded by Mrs. Chandler Felton to approve Resolution 2502. Any further discussion? Any further comments, Joe or Angie, Bob or Tom? All right. With that being said, Mrs. Chilcott, roll call, please.
Counselor Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Counselor Hayes Edwards is absent. Counselor Uzelak.
Yes.
Counselor Hardaway is absent. And Counselor Pettit.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 25-03 is a resolution of the Town of Merrillville, Indiana Redevelopment Commission confirming the establishment of the Broadway North Economic Development Area and related allocation area in the Town of Merrillville, Indiana, and approving an economic development plan for said area known as the Broadway North Economic Development Area. This is, again, comes out of the Merrillville Momentum, ladies, as we've had comments and recommendations from our consultant that we consider this, again, would make eligible funds for the north end of Merrillville, which Broadway is obviously a concern to all 7 of us, to try and reinvest in that area. We know that Andrean High School is staying up there. We've had other people that have invested in there. The Levin Tire has been redeveloped. The mall at 53rd and Broadway has been redeveloped. We've seen redevelopment at 61st and Broadway. So I think that's why our consultant recommended that we look at this and try and reinvest in those larger areas. So with that being said, ladies, if you have any questions or comments, if not,
So moved.
hang on a second, Margie, let me.
I thought you were
No,
ready.
that's okay. If there are no other comments, I'm going to open up this for public hearing. Again, this was an advertised public hearing. Correct? Newspapers
yes.
and
Yes.
and everything. Tom and Angie and Joanna worked on these. So at this time, I would like to open up Resolution 2503 to the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak in favor or against, please state your name and address and let your comments be known.
Mr. President, I'm Michael Griffin. I am the town manager serving and acting in the town of Merrillville. My business address is 7820 Broadway, Merrillville, Indiana, 46410. I come to speak in favor of the resolution. It is true that this was suggested, but not formally recommended from the work that our planner did that's developing our new comprehensive plan that's still in development. But working with the Economic Development Director, Ms. Chilcott, we were really hopeful that you would do this. We don't think it's going to capture a lot of increment. We're prepared to be surprised. But as you know, in this law, we'd like to be able to extend the power we've already been experiencing from the Broadway allocation area south of 61st. In order to spend any of those proceeds, we need to have this extended to give us permission. And there's a lot of economic viability down there. One of the things we did discover in the momentum process is there's viability in the Broadway Center, formerly the Broadway Mall. But we know it's our front door, and we'd like to dress it up a little bit and give it some curb appeal. This will allow us to take allocation area increment and spend it on that, and also encourage maybe a revisiting of our current grant for
Facade.
thank you, facade grant. I appreciate that. Facade grants, and we'll have to explore getting a neighborhood development corporation as part of the vehicle for that on the advice of council. But I want to speak in favor of this because it'll extend our power and our reach to do some things that I think our residents have even been concerned about. And if we do it well and early, we can minimize some of the early signs of disinvestment, but not so bad that we can't reverse it.
Okay.
I thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here tonight to speak in favor or against Resolution 25-03?
Mr. President, Eric January, with the, not just for the town, but also as a resident. My concern is, I think that definitely needs development in the area, and I think development is already taking place. A person just bought the 61st Street Mall. My concern is that we will use taxpayer dollars to enrich a private party. I understand the facade reimbursement program that we had throughout the town, but I believe that if we do something like that, there should be a limit on it. They just paid $4.1 million for the property. I don't think that we should be trying to match it because we've got too many other concerns that we can use this money for in the town of Merrillville other than giving it to a private party to develop their own private property. So that is my number one concern, that we got to have limits on it, and it's got to be something that's reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor or against Resolution 25-03?
Brian Massarch, we should not be expanding TIF zones in Merrillville. We have gotten to the point where we're oversaturated with them. We're getting to the point where everything is going to be a TIF zone, which becomes counterproductive to the actual nature of a TIF zone. We should consider other options other than making things TIF zones. Having private developers develop things on their own. TIF zones are made so that normal business can be aided. If a normal business an enterprise can fund something, they should do it on their own. They don't need a municipality's help. There shouldn't be any incentives where multi-billion-dollar companies can spend their own money. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor or against Resolution 25-03? Anyone else? Last chance. All right, we will close the public hearing, go back to the commission. Ladies, what's your pleasure on Resolution 25-03?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak, seconded by Ms. Chandler Felton to approve Resolution 25-03. Is there any further discussion? Comments? Seeing none, Ms. Chilcott, roll call, please.
Counselor Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Counselor Hayes Edwards is absent. Counselor Uzelak.
Yes.
Counselor Hardaway is absent. And Counselor Pettit.
Yes. Motion carries 3-0. Resolution 25-04 is a resolution of the Town of Merrillville, Indiana Redevelopment Commission confirming the establishment of the Silos East Economic Development Area and related allocation area in the Town of Merrillville, Indiana, and approving an economic development plan for said area, Silos East Economic Development Area. Again, ladies, this is the area that's off of 101st Avenue east of Building 1 in the silos at Sanders Farm. There is a data center committee that Council President Bella formed. We heard presentations from this particular area. It's 133 acres, and the investment that they're going to make is going to be hopefully tremendous in the town, and we would be able to capture that money. That being said, do you ladies have any questions of Bob or Tom or Angie? Seeing none? Bob, Tom, Angie, anything? All right, that being said.
It was properly advertised.
It was properly advertised. This is an advertised public hearing. At this time, I'll open up public comment on the public hearing for Resolution 2504. Is there anyone to speak in favor or against Resolution 2504?
My big question, is there a need to put this in a TIF zone? We're talking about mostly those data centers that are going to be going in, correct? That's the area in question here?
It's just, sir, it's actually, I'm in favor or against. It's really not a
Okay,
question
well-
and answer. So,
I would be against it for the sole purpose of this. Some of these tax dollars could actually go to our general fund and help with some other avenues. I watched a redevelopment meeting, and I saw one thing that kind of it stuck with me. It was when you had quotes for this very building to secure the 3 doors. If ever there was an expense that shouldn't have to go to the RDC, that should never have to go to the RDC. Mr. Griffin should be able to write a check, or Mr. January, and take care of that out of the general fund. Meanwhile, we're going to create another TIF zone. That's more money that's going to get deferred from the general fund. That could be used for other things. That's my problem with this.
thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor or against 25-04?
Brian Messarch. I'm speaking out against this additional TIF zone. You have stated several times, you brought up the data committee. This was not discussed, adding a TIF zone in the data committee. I was there. It wasn't discussed. Number 2, TIF zones are siphoning money away from school districts that our school district could definitely use the money from. Number 3, these zones continually impact other things like our police force and our fire force, because not only does the money get redirected from the schools, it gets redirected from Ross Township. And as Mr. Griffin has educated us multiple times, we don't want to spend TIF zone money on our fire or police, because that money might run out sometime in 20 or 40 or 80 years, because we continue to re-up the TIF zones. So at what point in time do we have that money just go into the general fund where it needs to be, and we add our fire and we add our police, and we know that that's where the money is budgeted? The more we take and put the money into the RDC, the more we just kick the can down the road, and we are not fixing and working on the things that Merrillville needs. That's why I'm against it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor or against Resolution 25-04? Anyone else to speak in favor or against Resolution 2504? Last time, anyone to speak in favor or against? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Let the record show taping that Councilwoman Hardaway, Commissioner Hardaway, has joined us. Thank you, Keisha. With that being said, ladies, is there any other questions? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak, seconded by Ms. Chandler Felton to approve Resolution 25-04. Is there any further discussion or questions? Keisha, I know you came in late. This is the allocation area that's going to be down on 101st Avenue.
Yep, I know.
Okay. With that being said, Mrs. Chilcott, roll call.
Sure. Counselor Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Counselor Hayes Edward is absent. Counselor Uzelak.
Yes.
Counselor Hardaway.
Yes.
And Counselor Pettit.
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. The last item on the agenda, ladies, is the Thomas, one of the reasons I asked Bob and Tom to come up here, because I know we have a couple new commissioners. So gentlemen, if you might, on this one, this is the first of a series of resolutions, I believe. Tom, you want to come up to the microphone and explain what we're trying to do here for Randy Hall and what we've done in the past with the developer-backed bond? This is Resolution 2505. It's a resolution of the Town of Merrillville Redevelopment Commission pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of economic development revenue bonds of the Town of Merrillville and approving related items thereto. Again, this would be for Liberty Estates West. Mr. Hall is asking for a $20 million bond that will handle basically the infrastructure improvements in Liberty Estates West, west of Whitcomb Street. Mr. Pittman.
Thank you. Tom Pittman, attorney from Barnes and Thornburg at 11 South Meridian Street in Indianapolis. The incentive that President Pettit described is in name only a bond. What it really is an agreement with the developer that if they do a project, which they will agree that that's their plan to do, that if and when that project generates increment, the Redevelopment Commission agrees to give them an agreed portion of that tip. So it's self-policing in the sense that there's no commitment at all to pay anything on this incentive unless they create a lot of assessed value with their project. And in each case, a measure will be made every 6 months as to how much TIF came in and what the agreed percentage was to transfer, and then those funds are then paid to the developer. So again, I mean, there's no risk to the town or to the Redevelopment Commission because the nominal bond here will say that if there is no TIF or if there is insufficient TIF to pay that incentive, that does not constitute a default by the town or the Redevelopment Commission. So it doesn't bring into play the town's credit at all. It really is if you produce it, you'll get a share, and if you don't, you won't. So,
Okay.
okay.
Now, we've done two of these, correct, Tom?
Yes.
One with Mr. Hall and one with Mr. Weiss.
Yes, and procedurally, it's done in the form of an economic development bond issue, which will require official action by the town council. It will require a public hearing and an approval by your Economic Development Commission. And then it's with your body that the decision is made to make a pledge to pay the TIF stream. And so that's what this resolution does. It doesn't give all of the detail, but it just as a general matter authorizes a pledge of TIF subject to the more specific terms to be set forth in a pledge agreement. But the pledge agreement has to be consistent with this resolution. It'll just have more detail, like on the mechanics of the transfers of funds. So,
Now, didn't we do with Mr. Weiss and Mr. Hall's first, isn't there a caveat in there that when they get an increment draw from the county, that a portion comes back to the town? And for some reason, I remember $100,000 when a draw is made.
yeah.
Is that correct?
Well, I think that's correct, and that's something that we'll pin down and put into the
Right.
agreement.
And of course, Mr. Weiss hasn't started his development. I mean, he tore down the grocery store.
Okay.
Mr. Hall obviously has been building houses as fast as he can throw them up in
Right.
Liberty Estates East.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy. So, commissioners, do you have any questions for Tom? Again, Margie, you and Leona and I have seen Liberty Estates West with Randy at the Plan Commission level.
Yes.
Or Joe, do you have any comments on this?
No, not at all.
This is the first step, right, Tom?
Yes.
Okay. If there are no questions, Chair will entertain a motion, ladies, for 25-05.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak, seconded by Ms. Hardaway, to approve 25-05. Is there any further discussion? This is a voice vote, Joe?
Take a roll call.
Take a roll call. By the way, Commissioner Hardaway, you were luckily re-voted as the secretary. So, so will you take a roll call?
Yes. Councilwoman Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Councilwoman Uzelak.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hardaway is a yes, and Councilman Chair Pettit.
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. All right, Angie, do you have anything else on the staff level?
No, nothing further.
All right. With that being said, ladies, Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Adjourned.
Adjourn.
For adjournment.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, was that Margie?